And welcome back to another edition of Around the Bases. It is episode 10, and we are a month into the baseball season. My goodness, it is flying by. I am one of your hosts, Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric, and as always, I am joined by Mo. You can find him on Twitter at Boston_Mo. How are we doing tonight?
You're doing well, Bubba. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Just another week, and things are starting to, still early, but things are starting to slowly come into focus in the world of baseball. A lot of excitement out there. But talking about some excitement, depending on how you look at it, the Mets. The Mets are very exciting. It depends if you're a fan or not, though, because they're looking for a doctor. Let's just put it that way. Because whoever evaluates their injury reports or takes their physicals, they might be a witch doctor, or they might be on, the witches of Eastwick, might be found in New Orleans. I don't know what they do for a living when they're letting their players decide if they want to take an MRI or not, or they're not that banged up, so go play in April. A lot of interesting things. We know all their pitchers seem to get hurt. Cespedes was out for like 7 days on a 10-day DL as possible. Then he gets hurt the next game out. All kinds of fun stuff. So, and it's been going on year after year after year. Losing Thor now, this season might be already over. What are your thoughts on this just horrific display of, control of injuries, or I don't know how you want to describe it in New York?
It's tough to describe. You've got 8 total guys on the DL right now. If you count Brandon Nemo, it's Duda, it's David Wright, Flores, Cespedes, Nemo, Lugo, Matz, Syndergaard. It has been a complete disaster. It's both of our picks in the NL East to win the division. It's a complete disaster in New York. You've got everyone freaking out up there. It's crazy. And if you go back and you look at it, Ray Ramirez, the athletic trainer, okay, we've talked about it in nauseum for weeks, how I don't understand how this guy is still the athletic trainer. He's been with the Mets since 1983, almost 25 years. He's been the head athletic trainer for 12 years, okay? And Zach Wheeler was out 2 full years. Travis D'Arnaud was out. He's played 108, 67, and 75 games over the last 3 years each season. You have Duda hurt the last 2 years. Harvey was out all of 2014 and half of 2016. Bartolo Colon was the healthiest guy out of them all. Think of that. Big Sexy was the healthiest guy out of them all. Probably because he doesn't really run. He probably doesn't really need to work out. Doesn't throw hard enough. Maybe it was the steroids a few years back.
How do you hurt Jelly? You can't hurt Jelly.
You can't. That's right. That's probably why I gained a bunch of weight after high school. So it was either the beers or that. I'm not really sure. And I just eat terrible overall. But it is absolutely insane that this guy is still the athletic trainer. If he's been with the club for almost 25 years, I don't see them making a move. I don't know. Syndergaard was the healthiest out of them all. They talked about how he gained like 16 pounds of muscle in the offseason, which led to his lat strain because he just wanted to throw hard. It's almost like Ricky Bobby wants to go fast. Noah Syndergaard just wants to throw hard. It's just ridiculous right now in Queens, and I'm hopefully going to be at the game against your Giants next Monday. We maybe talk to a few fans there and see how they're feeling with it in person.
Oh, well, that's just outstanding. You get to see 2 of my 3 disappointing teams of April in person. You are just a lucky man. I hope you're drinking heavily so you can, you don't vomit on everybody. 2 things. It's embarrassing, the Thor thing, when like 2 days or 3 days prior, he says he can't lift his arm over his head. Oh, my God. Okay, I'm sorry, but Boston, a pitch gets away, and they're already issuing warnings. This is freaking ridiculous.
That's why I had my hands on my head. He just threw behind Machado. He just threw right behind his knees.
Oh, my God.
They gave a standing ovation to Adam Jones. It's great. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I love Sale to death. I just think we'll get into it. But keep going.
Yeah, sorry. I just saw that. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Sorry, too. I was going to say something.
Jesus. Oh God. So he can't even lift his head over his arm. You demand an MRI. You demand it. You are a paid employee of mine. You're not stepping foot on that mound until I see medical records of what is going on with you. Very simple. And then the muscle thinks he just wants to throw hard. It's been proven increased velocity year after year after year is what's been leading to more and more Tommy John surgeries lately. It's documentations on this. It's not like 100% foolproof, but there's a lot of things pointing to it. And it's sad that this just took place because I was going to use your Chris Sale here as an example. He's made a point. He's a goddamn beanpole, and he's made a point to kind of lower his velocity for his longevity. He's made a point to do that, and you've seen it. And I do appreciate us recording tonight because you get to kind of glance at your porn on TV instead of, dedicate your time to it, because Chris Sale's just been amazing this year. But I don't know what the Mets are doing. How that guy, like you said, has a job is unbelievable.
It's absolutely incredible. We'll get away from the Mets now, and again, we'll
be back to him.
Well, yeah, we'll be back to him eventually, but we're peeking one eye on our TVs and peeking one eye here on our notes and whatnot, trying to record this. So, next on our topics here, we got bullpens. We have our call to the bullpen segment a little bit later. We've talked about different, closer situations, setup situations. One thing that's been going on in the last couple of years is the Andrew Miller type of relievers. So the changing of bullpen strategies, whether they're going to use relief pitchers in high leverage situations. And there's a few guys here that they're talking about. Bubba, what do you got on this situation?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because it was a kind of a discussion I was having with some other guys the other day, and I couldn't really get my point across on Twitter in 120 words or characters at a time, 140, whatever that is. And like you have your Andrew Miller, fire relief, you get 2 to 3 innings. You have your Davinsky's that the Astros are using now. He gives you 3 to 4 innings and he's lights out, 7 Ks. He's basically a short starter type guy. What got the thing going was now you have Archie Bradley for the Diamondbacks, who's been amazing this year. And the discussion there was the Diamondbacks bullpen is a disaster. Fernando Rodney continues to be horrible, and they keep letting him close. And my argument is Bradley needs to close. And if that means giving him the 8th and 9th inning or the 7th, 8th, and 9th, I don't care. But that's your closer. Bottom line. That's your guy. In the old days, your closer used to close 3 innings or something in the end. They didn't have a description of a closer. So I don't care how many innings he pitches. That's your best pitcher. Pitch him. Very simple. The reason why it's not the same situation to me as Houston or, say, Cleveland. Cleveland has Cody Allen. Houston has Giles and Gregerson. They have other options. It's a big difference to me. That's why I wanted to have an explanation here. It is where things are going. I was even looking at something earlier. The Indians have another move they might be making pretty soon. A youngster, Clevenger, we saw him in the playoffs last year. He's filthy. They're talking about bringing him up as a Davinsky type. So now Miller only has to go like 2 innings, so now they can use him more often. So their bullpen can just be even scarier. It's definitely the way of the world if you can make it work, because a lot of these starters, they're trying to throw so hard. They're trying to, get all these strikeouts. So pitch counts are going up. It's a pitch count world we live in. 100 pitch counts, you're out. 5 or 6 innings for a lot of these kids. You're going to need guys to go 2 to 3 innings out of your bullpen. You need these guys that can shut things down. It's, like I said, the way of the world. It's ever evolving. I just think you need to bob and weave. We saw in Seattle, they're moving Diaz. They've thrown him in the 8th inning, the higher leverage situation. So he's the closer, but he's not getting the save. I have no problem with that. We kind of talked on it a little bit last week. I'm a big fan of that. We need to see more of that. I'd like to see closers pitch more than 1 inning. Get them. They need to pitch. Your closer needs to be your most important pitcher is what I'm trying to say. And they need to be able to pitch more than 1 inning if necessary. That's where I'm getting at with this. And I guess there's a couple of guys we'll talk about in the call of the bullpen. But do you have any thoughts on that?
A quick thought. The issue with that theory, and I would love to see that theory too. I think it would be great to see Craig Kimbrell coming in if there's 2 runners on, 2 outs, and you need a strikeout and you're up 1 run. Second and third. If you allow a hit, then they're going to take the lead most likely. It would be great to see Craig Kimbrell coming in that situation in terms of, just to use a local example. But he can't do it because the mentality of closers and of baseball players itself, and I hate to say it, but a lot of baseball players are mentally soft. They are stuck in their, usage. I'm a setup man. I'm the closer. This is when I'm coming in. I'm the starter. This is when I'm starting. It's like the Matt Harvey thing the other day where Syndergaard was hurt. They moved him up. He worked out the day before. He it was like Tuesday's arms and back for Matt Harvey. And then all of a sudden he had to start a day early. It's just the mentality of baseball players is tough. So although I'd love to see it, I'm not sure if many relievers can do it.
And you bring up a good point. These guys are all they're creatures of habit, you could say. They have to be in their little world. You look at certain ones, there's certain closers that don't even head to the bullpen until the 6th inning. They sit in the dugout. They're all, creatures of habit, like I said. But if we start to instill a new philosophy, they can adapt. That's what I'm saying. If it becomes something different, it's not just a random occurrence, then they can adapt. It might have to start in spring training. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think it's something that's going to happen eventually. Obviously, I don't even think it's going to happen this year because you would have figured after what you saw with Andrew Miller and Chapman and some of those guys that more teams would have run with it, but all we've seen now is Davinsky. But I think Davinsky's even bigger than what Miller did because Davinsky wasn't a lockdown closer. He was kind of out of nowhere was going to be a potential 5th starter, and people saw how filthy that is. Now you're seeing Bradley, who never really made it as a starter that people thought he could be. We mentioned a guy like Giolito. Maybe this is the perfect role for Giolito. Stuff like this. So these could be roles that these guys could fit into down the road, and you could develop them young into this position. That's what it could be.
Agreed.
All right. Back to our man. We can't talk about a baseball podcast, especially a little review of the month of April, without talking about the one and only Eric Thames, who was just beasting out all over baseball in April. And one of the best things about it, and we talked about it last week, I'm angry about it. I know you weren't happy about it either. Everybody claiming he's on PEDs. It was ridiculous. And like I said, we tweeted it out on our Around Bases pod handle, his interview in the locker room about I have enough pee and blood to go around, keep testing me. He's been tested 4 times already, and it started coming out. There was articles on it. I know there's a giant, George Contos. He's been tested 3 to 4 times already. I think I saw Darren O'Day said he's been tested 4 times. So it's not just Thames, for one. But what I want to know, and I want to, how random is this random? And if we're just testing these guys, that's on average already once a week, for crying out loud. Eventually, doesn't it just become overkill? Because if you're taking blood samples, this stuff's supposed to stay in your blood for a long freaking time. That's why I wanted to talk about this. Eventually, these guys got to be able to play baseball. They can't be coming in after, playing a game all night, and then there's a guy sitting at their locker going, hey, I need a sample.
Yeah, it's clearly not random. If Eric Thames is tested already 4 times, it should honestly be a max of 2 a month, something like that. If they really want to go after the hot guys, you wonder if Bryce Harper's been tested because even though he just mashes the ball, Aaron Judge, he's probably going to be tested pretty soon in the month of May because he's murdering the ball. It has to be random. It has to be random, but I don't think it ever is gonna be. It's not like they pick the names out of a hat and then you fly a guy here and go do it. Eric Thames went through the whole Olympic testing in Korea. We talked about that last week, so he's used to it. He passed those without a problem. He's gonna pass these 2. it's not a huge deal to me. If they want to test them, test them. But at the same time, it's like you said, it's kind of overkill.
Yeah, 4 times in 1 month. Like, come on already. Like, really. And that's not even counting spring training where they got it a couple times.
Right. Next topic here, I wanted to kind of bring this up because this has been a big deal in Boston for a long time. I don't know if it's a big deal sort of with other teams. Maybe it is, and we just don't hear about it as much as we hear about it in Boston. But came out the other day, Sandy Leon's going to catch for Sale and Porcello, and Vasquez will catch for the rest of the starters. I know Lester, he was caught by David Ross in Chicago and in Boston, and he was very comfortable. Lester was a big deal when he first kind of came up in the World Series year in 2007, when he wanted Varitek to be his catcher and only Varitek. So again, talking about the sort of mentally fragile baseball players, creature of habit, they need their catcher, What about the Giants? And I mean, I guess Giants is a bad example because Buster Posey is the guy. He is the guy. Most other teams have a couple catchers. There's probably 5 to 10 teams that have a starting catcher. Do you know of any others? Like, I feel like this is only a big deal in Boston, but maybe I'm too naive.
Well, the second you brought this up when we were emailing back and forth this week, right out the gate, first thing that hit my head, back in the 90s, Greg Maddux always had Eddie Perez. Always had Eddie Perez catch him. That was his guy. Javi Lopez caught the rest of the rotation. Eddie Perez caught Greg Maddux. That was his guy. I remember that fluently. So then I started looking it up, and I remembered, I believe it was last year, the last couple years in LA, I'm pretty sure Kershaw had A.J. Ellis catching him all the time. That's why I was really surprised that Ellis, they didn't re-sign him, because you figured a guy like Kershaw would have a little pull to be like, hey, I'd like my catcher. Like, can you keep him here, please? But it's gone on for quite a while. You can look it up, even back into the 60s and 70s, like Tim McCarver for some of the old Cardinals, pitchers and stuff. It's not as often as you'd think, but I can see the reasoning behind it. You get that comfort zone, just communicating with the guy, the way they set up. It's just, I don't know. I just get it, the whole comfort feel of it. When you're a pitcher, you just need that. You would think you can just pick up and throw, but like you said about relievers needing to know what they're doing, these starters are probably very similar. And like a guy like Greg Maddux that has to locate so much, he requires a framer. Well, it means he trusted a guy like Eddie Perez to frame for him. So some of these other guys, they trust guys to block it into the dirt. Like, you were talking about your knuckleballers with Mirabelli. And there's just certain guys with certain things that they needed. When it comes to Giants, I don't remember too much with that. Maybe if there were, kind of when I was young and didn't pay as much of attention to it. Like you said, right now it's Posey's Posey. That's just, it is what it is. When he's out, it's because he's getting a day off. That's all it is to it. But, yeah, that's about all I got on that one.
Yeah, it just was weird to me because it always was like almost like a big topic on talk radio in Boston, and I never really heard of any of it, being crazy and everywhere else. And it kind of makes sense when they did trade. That was a big deal when they traded A.J. Ellis, not only because he was his catcher, but he was like Posey's best friend. Like, I think they live in the same neighborhood. Like, their kids are friends, their wives are friends. So that was like a big deal there.
Well, and it makes a lot of sense for the fact that you always want to give your catchers like at least one day off out of the 5 in the rotation, if not more. So why wouldn't you designate that one backup catcher to catch just one guy, get a familiarity with another guy? It actually makes a ton of sense. And in reality, why wouldn't you do that with every team in reality? But I'm not a professional manager. I don't stay at a Holiday Inn Express, so I don't get to make these decisions. But one thing, and this is where we were going when we were talking Mets, so we'll get there now. And things settled down in Boston. We're in the second inning now. But last night, Boston-Baltimore resumed. We talked last week about the slide and then the throw behind Manny's head. And what would come of this? Well, Dylan Bundy, he got his. He plunked Mookie, but he did it nice. He hit him, and in the thigh area, backside. Did it as nicely as he could have. Kept it clean. Then the Boston faithful got a little out of hand, a lot out of hand. If what's being said is accurate, and I got to believe it from everything else I keep hearing, got way out of hand. The racial slurs and everything to Adam Jones is just outright inappropriate. You listen to CC Sabathia talk about it. The N-word gets thrown down, and all kinds of other things have been thrown out. It's pretty rough, pretty darn rough. And all sporting events are getting out of hand these days to begin with. I'm not going to say Boston is the only one that's bad. I want to clarify that now, to make a point we're not just picking on Boston. They're just they're in the picture right now. But like we had Giants, the Giants Dodgers guy got the crap beat out of him in the parking lot and was in a coma for months. It's bad everywhere. But you go to Fenway. You've been to these games. What do you got on this, Mo?
Yeah, I said before the game, I thought that Bundy would do it. I thought he would do it to Betts or Hanley. I'm glad he chose Betts because Hanley is a firecracker, and who the hell knows what he would have done. But I thought it would be over, and then we're watching the game over here, both of us. I'm watching on my local, you're watching it on MLB Network, and Sale throws behind Machado. And clearly Sale didn't try to hit him. He threw behind him for a reason. And he was, he did it on purpose, I think. But it should end there. They both got warnings. It should end there. And that's it. Who knows if it will? Now, luckily Sale started and did pretty well so far. But if he hits someone tonight, because he did lead the league in hit bats from last year, he'd be thrown out. So let's hope that doesn't happen. I thought it would be over. He hit Betts in the perfect position. Betts took his base. That's it. The racism part at Fenway is troubling, especially when even before I was alive, and probably when I was a little toddler and a teenager, growing up, they didn't give Bill Russell his due in basketball, and it just Boston was a racist city. I'm not going to get into that because I don't look into that stuff too often. It happened after the Bruins with Joel Ward when he scored the winning goal a few years back for the Capitals. You had like 2 or 3 tweets sent by idiots who we don't even know if they're from Boston doing that. Torrey Smith incident, I'm not going to get into all that. Here's what I'm kind of worried about here is it's all Boston fans. It is not, and that's lazy by people, okay? It is not all Boston fans. It's a couple of drunk idiots. And by the way, I'm not going to go into this hole. There's a lot of people that have been like, I want proof. There's all these cameras. There's 20,000 people there. How do we not have proof of someone saying this? I believe Adam Jones. I like Adam Jones. He's on a rival team. He was on Team USA. I like everything he stands for. He plays the game the right way. He's a great teammate. Just sounds like a tremendous human being for the city of Baltimore and for baseball itself. And he handled it correctly. He even said with Verducci on MLB Network today that he's like, I'm not going to get into this whole thing. This is not all of Boston. So for everyone piling on here, don't be lazy. This is not all of Boston. I had a guy on Twitter last night argue with me saying 30% of Boston fans are racist. 30%. I mean, come on. It's like 1%, maybe less. It happens in the world, and it's terrible. Those people are awful people. They're cowards. Because you know what? They said it probably at his back. He would never say it to his face. They're cowards. They should legit, not to sound crazy, they should legit be thrown in jail. I mean, it is crazy. I know Adam Jones is like hit him in the pocket, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 rather than just ban them. I'm very passionate about this because I just think there's a lot of lazy people on Twitter, a lot of lazy people in the world that are just piling on and saying that everyone in Boston is racist. And even you said that's not the case. Smart people will say that's not the case. But this is a problem. You can't I don't know how people are like this nowadays, especially in a public setting. It's just really troubling, and it sucks for me, for my city, that it would put in a negative light like this. People already hate us enough with the Patriots and just all the championships and just stupid shit. But I mean, I would hope, I would do this. I would hope that if you were at a baseball game and you heard someone call a player the N-word, you would speak up and point that guy out. I would hope. I know I would, and you probably would too.
Oh yeah, there's no place for that. Like, I was thinking about this when I was driving home, how we kind of discussed this, because it's like it's an easy topic to discuss, but it's not at the same time, because, like you said, people don't get it. Because if there's that many people thinking that 30% of the people in Boston are racist, then they obviously don't get it. It's like over here like for Giants games, they think just because, you know, there's a large population, I'm not going to say what percentage because I don't know the answer. Me saying a random percentage shows that I'm an idiot. So I don't know. There's a large population of, you know, homosexuals in San Francisco. So they assume that all of us Giants fans, and then they say, I don't want to go to a game because of that. So now you have racists in Boston and we're homosexuals in San Francisco. So where else can we not go to games? Like, so is this what we're going to start saying everywhere we go? I'm sorry I'm taking a turn here, but I'm just trying to make an example that people just don't get it. Like, it's just stupid. On the note of calling people out, yes, I am the biggest sarcastic asshole in the world, and I will talk shit at games all the time to opposing fans in a friendly, bantered way when I know it's friendly back and forth. The second it gets taken out of line, it stops. It's called out if it's not directed the right way. And when you're starting the racial epitaphs like that, oh, yeah, game over. See ya.
Yeah, people are
That's
too PC nowadays in this country and everywhere. It's just, but that you can't tolerate racism. You just can't do it. You can't joke about it. You can't, even your example, you can't joke about that stuff. It's just, but for most of the stuff, take a joke. But for those two examples, you just can't. It's got to be, it just has to be stopped. It probably will never be stopped, and it sucks, but you got to do the best you can. Now, we'll go away from that from that crap. Hopefully it ends. Like I said, they gave Adam Jones a standing ovation tonight, which was good. We go into our DL news, starting with the AL. A few big names here. We're starting out in Oakland, Sean Manaea, DL. I mean, I was on Twitter. I wasn't watching that game. I was watching a different game, but people were freaking out, saying he dropped 82 miles an hour or something like that with his fastball. He had sharp pain in his shoulder, and then somehow he's not going to be out for too long, but the A's are playing it safe. So they're hoping he misses one or two starts, but that's something to watch out for in that situation. They have a young rotation. I'll just stay there. They're getting Sonny Gray and Rajai Davis back. Sonny Gray starting tonight. So you get Gray, Manaea, you got to get Graveman back. Cotton, Billy Beane's building something there with a nice young rotation. So that's to the Oakland. We'll go to Toronto now. Aaron Sanchez, he went on the DL once with blisters. Him and Rich Hill need to figure out and get some sort of blister doctor. Now Aaron Sanchez is on the DL with a split nail. Okay? A split nail. He's going to rehab this weekend, but John Gibbons said he will not return until he's 100%. I mentioned when he went on the DL first, it's not a terrible thing because they are watching his innings anyway. So it's not an arm issue. It's just kind of a fluke couple issues. Hopefully he'll be back pretty soon because the Blue Jays need him badly, and I'll get into that later in the disappointment segment. We go out west for our last couple ones to the upper northwest, Seattle, Mitch Haniger, Felix Hernandez to the DL. They're both going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. Haniger with an oblique, so you never know about that one. They'll probably take his time, and unfortunately, it's too bad because he was having a heck of a season. Again, we'll talk about them more later, but he was having a really, really good season. So hopefully he gets back pretty soon. Felix Hernandez, he's got a dead arm. His velocity was down. Ks per nine was down. He's not the same guy. He talked many times how he's really like a 2, probably a 3. So they need him though, because the depth in that organization for starting pitching after trading, they traded Miley for Gallardo, but they traded Taijuan Walker and they got Haniger back, so that's a good thing. But the depth at starting rotation for them is not good. Both of our picks in the AL West, it doesn't look good, but we'll see what happens there. And then to California, the last one, Angels play CJ Cron, Tyler Skaggs, the DL. Cron's got a left foot contusion, a little bit unlucky off a foul ball. So he'll be out a couple weeks. And Skaggs has a right oblique muscle strain. They're hoping it's only going to be a couple weeks there as well. And then something that came up today is Greg Bird. He went to the DL with a 100 average. So that's his injury. You really have to watch out for that guy. And that was our spring training darling. Another reason not to trust spring stats. Everyone thought he was all the way back. Now they send him to the DL. They were going to send him to the minors to get more bats. They decided not to do that. And then watch out for Jacoby Ellsbury. He could be going to the DL. They're waiting on an MRI results. That's our quick ALDL news. Bubba, what do you got in the NL?
On the NL, we already mentioned Noah Syndergaard real briefly. He has a right lat tear, no timetable set. He came out with a little note to New York kind of saying thanks for the support / I apologize / I'll be back eventually. There's really no timetable. It's a muscle. You got to know when it heals. Steven Matz in 2015 had the same injury. He was out 2 months. Not saying if he would have had the MRI and not pitched, this wouldn't have happened, but I'm probably saying this wouldn't have happened to this extent. Let's just be honest about it. Right now they're going to go with Rafael Montero starting this weekend because Matson Lugo won't even be available off the DL till the end of May. So trouble in Queens. Shelby Miller was actually off to a decent start this year after that horrific 2016. He's undergoing Tommy John surgery after 3 opinions because he just didn't want to take no for an answer. Zach Godley got the call up in the first start. He was better than expected after his rough 2016 appearances. Braden Shipley, former first-round pick, will be an option at some point. They're not going to go with Archie Bradley. That was a rumor. They're going to keep him in the bullpen. So right now it's Zach Godley, potentially Shipley. Miller's out the rest of this year and likely the first half of 18. Yoenis Cespedes on the DL with a hamstring injury. Not supposed to be too serious. They're hoping to get him back in 10 days. He came up so limp on that play and could barely get off the field. I thought it was worse than that. I'll believe it when I see it. On that same note, I didn't have it on my notes, but Lucas Duda had a setback. He was supposed to be ready to come off the DL a day or 2 ago. He had a setback maybe this weekend, if not later for him. Adam Eaton out for the year with a torn ACL. That was nasty. He just felt like it was nasty. Couldn't even put pressure on his foot. Interesting what they're going to do here. Couple scenarios. They were interested in Lorenzo Cain in the offseason before they struck the deal for Eaton. They've already expressed interest for Kelvin Herrera. We've been saying every podcast how they need a closer. You can go Cain and Herrera. They're both free agents at the end of the year. Problem is they've already been fleeced for pretty much all their prospects. So I don't know what you're going to give up for just 2 rentals. The other alternative is Steven Drew comes off the DL pretty soon. You let Drew play short and you put the youngster back to center field. Why I'm blanking on his name right now. It's Turner back to center field like he was last year. That might be the option there. In Washington, Brandon Crawford for the Giants on the DL with a right groin strain, left on Tuesday. Hoping it's not too bad. They haven't given an exact time on it yet, but he's going to be out at least the 10 days. He didn't think it was that bad. He didn't feel pop, so they're hoping it's only 10 days. David Freese to the DL with a right hamstring strain. They say it's not too bad. If it would have been the 15-day DL, he would not have gone on it. So there's more reason why this 10-day DL sucks for fantasy owners. Jock Peterson starting rehab on Wednesday or Thursday. And that's when he returns potentially this weekend. Our darling Bellinger, who's just been awesome to watch. Awesome to watch. He's going to be sent back down unless something crazy happens. But don't wait. He won't be down for long because he's better than almost all of those outfielders there right now. It's just stupid that they can't find a spot for him. Hungjin Ryu just put on the DL yesterday, I believe it was, with a hip contusion. He occurred while running the bases. More reasons why people want the DH, which I don't give a shit. Be an athlete. He hopes to only miss one start. The Dodgers have a couple off days, so they won't even need a fifth starter for the most part. So they brought up an extra reliever. So it won't even really hurt the Dodgers. They'll get away with it. And then Ryan Braun left Sunday start. They called it a trapeze injury. It's just strained. He called it wear and tear. He's likely to miss a few games and hopes to avoid the DL. I can't wait to see how this story develops. I heard the trapeze injury on Monday, and then Monday night, I read the wear and tear part, and I really started scratching my head going, what the hell is wear and tear, and how do you not know the severity of this injury? Because you're trying to trade a guy, and you're letting them give this vague of an injury report. Not good, especially for a team that's quasi-competitive at the moment. But Braun's out. He missed yesterday's game. I didn't see if he's in the lineup tonight, but
he's not.
Yep, he's not. So another game out. Not good. So, there's your NLDL news. Let's go call to the bullpen. We'll kick it off in the nation's capital, where we've been quite a few times for this. Coda Glover, who we laughed, who started out with Trinan. He lost it right away. They gave it to Kelly. Kelly got his, and then Glover came in and took some of Kelly's. Well, Glover's going to the DL, so Kelly is the last man standing for the moment. What do you got on that one, Mo?
This bullpen is awful. Sean Kelly's the closer now. Joe Blanton has a Wayne Gretzky ERA, 9.90. He's been awful. He's got like a 44% left on base percentage. Romero's been awful. Obviously, Trinan's been awful with a 9 ERA. Matt Albers, surprisingly, has been the best guy out of that bullpen. They're in trouble. They have to make a move. But like you mentioned, they don't have really any prospects left to make a move. And that Eaton injury is just really unfortunate because not only is he just a great player and good up the top of the order, he's just a gamer, and that's sort of what they've needed. They needed someone to care because it always looks like that Bryce Harper doesn't. But that bullpen is awful. They have to somehow figure out whether it's a closer or just like a mini move for a guy that's maybe overachieving a little bit or underachieving. But something needs to be done in Washington pretty soon because that run – they're going to lose a bunch of games because of that bullpen in the next couple months if it stays this way. So the next closer situation, you've mentioned it earlier in our topic with the Archie Bradley part, but the closer situation in Arizona is not great. They're playing really well. Fernando Rodney is a 12.6 ERA. He's walking 6.3 guys per 9. Left on base rate terrible. Is allowing about 20% home run to fly ball rate. Probably will improve a little bit. I mean, his BABIP is 467, but you're calling for Archie Bradley. You think that happens soon, or are they gonna? Is my guy Torey Lovello gonna take his time here?
Everything I'm reading, he's either playing the politics just right, or he's doing something we have no idea about. But it looks like he's sticking with him. Like I said with the long bullpen deal, and I said with the Shelby Miller thing, they want Archie Bradley to stay in that long relief role, and they don't want to take him out of it. And I don't understand it at all. I think he's been so good. Like I said, then use him in the 8th and the 9th. It's better than Fernando Rodney. like you said with Rodney, it's just ludicrous that he has a 12.60 ERA. Unbelievable. It's just crazy. The options we're looking at, and for some reason my stinking page is not loading. Load the fuck. There we go. Okay, I've been waiting for that. The option, the only one in-house that I'm seeing, unless there's a guy in the minors and I'm missing, but I didn't really dig too deep, is J.J. Hoover. That's the guy. And he's been, mediocre at best, I'd say. He's had some bright spots, some down spots. He spent time in AAA last year for the Reds, and then he spent time with the Reds, but he's got basically a 13K to 9 right now with 4.6 walk per 9. He's stranding 84.6%, which is, that's not likely to be sustainable. But an ERA of 1.86, obviously better than Fernando Rodney. But the thing you got to look at, which is scary, is BABIP's 348. So I guess that's actually pretty sustainable. You got to look at that and be happy. K percentage of 30, FIP 1.65. His numbers all portray pretty darn good at the moment for a guy that is sitting there trying to set up Fernando Rodney as Fernando Rodney blows games for you. So if you're not going to go to Archie Bradley, and this could be a fantasy part if you're paying attention, look at J.J. Hoover, because that's the only other option I see on that roster right now, looking at that depth chart, unless I'm missing something that you're maybe seeing, because Will Helmson's got experience, but he's been pretty darn bad too. I'd be going J.J. Hoover's route.
Yeah, I agree on the J.J. Hoover. He's pitching really well, and his FIP's still sustainable. It doesn't look like he's going to regress that much, like you mentioned with the BABIP. So it's J.J. Hoover with the Ks per 9. And like you said, Will Helmson closed in Seattle, but he didn't strike anybody out, so it's a lot of contact. J.J. Hoover's probably the guy.
All right, moving on to Queens yet again. They're going to be a popular topic today. They just have all kinds of shit going on. They finally got their guy back that, basically spent time on the DL instead of being suspended for, I don't want to get into that. Jurius Familia came back, did a couple roles in setup duty, like we talked about before, and then got his first save. He now has 2 saves on the year. He's pitched in 7 games already. He's got a 15K per 9. He's looking good. He's doing Familia things. Had 1 rough outing, but all in all, looking pretty darn solid. Does he look like he's locked and loaded to have another big season to you?
Yeah, he's back. It's his job. Addison Reed did an adequate job filling in for him for the first month. So he'll go back to that setup role where he probably performs better. Talking about sort of that mentally weak baseball thing, he probably performs better in the setup role. That bullpen has to be good, and they needed Familia back because of the starting rotation. So it's definitely a big issue in New York with the rotation. So if the bullpen can get there, they might have a chance to kind of sustain something while they wait until they get Cespedes back and Lugo back and Matt's back and then Syndergaard in August or whatever it's going to be. So he's got to be strong in the back end of the bullpen, and the rest of the bullpen has to be really good as well. Now we go to Philadelphia. I feel like we talk about this every week. Neris blew another save. He's struggled in the closing role. He's been terrible in his last 5 appearances. What do you think they're going to stick with him? And will he come back? And is Benoit just better in the setup role?
That's what I'm getting out of it. I'm getting out of it that Benoit is just better in the setup role. I think we mentioned it last week. Benoit has flat out said he prefers to set up. He does not want to close. That's how his whole career's been. He's had opportunities to close in his career. The most saves he's ever had in his career was 24 in 2013 with the Tigers. It's just not his bag. It's not what he wants to do. I think like we might have said in the previews, the NL East preview, they basically, I think, signed him to kind of mentor these young pitchers in the bullpen. Neris potentially is the closer of the future. At least that might be what they want. Until my theory is Velasquez finally has to realize his arm is not built to be a starter, because if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to have too many surgeries and never pitch again. If he wants to throw hard, he'd be a great closer, in my opinion. But I think Neris is going to get a lot of – I think the leash is longer than expected. It could be proven wrong in a heartbeat. Maybe he blows one tonight and he's out tomorrow. These managers are crazy. But the Phillies have nothing to lose. They're here to keep rebuilding. They're better off finding out now how mentally strong this kid is and if he is this potential closer. Like you said earlier, these relievers have a mentality. Well, he's had issues the first few weeks, but he never had that mentality as a closer before. He has to build that mentality. Maybe he's trying to build it and he's nervous as hell. He's young. It's a lot of pressure on a kid. So he's got to work on these things, and these are speed bumps. So what better time to have speed bumps when you're expected to lose 100 games? I think he should have a long leash. Does he? I don't know. I let him stay there. I let Benoit have a locker seat right next to him and teach him things. Because if you take ERA and that stuff aside, you look at the K per nines, you look at the walk per nines, and all that stuff, they are stride to stride. Now, the home runs, he gives up a lot more homers than Benoit, but Ks, walks, ground ball rates similar, all that stuff similar. Where's the one I was looking for? BABIP's 300. Benoit's BABIP is – where'd it go? See, Benoit's BABIP's a .54 compared to Neris's 300. There's your difference. Everything else is the same, but Benoit's getting pretty darn lucky, in my opinion. So, in the grand scheme of things, I think Neris is going to be just fine. It's just a matter of, finding some gloves once in a while.
Based off how they handled Benoit, it's probably a long leash, because Benoit blew one save and they decided, I don't know whether he went into the manager's office and said, I don't want to close. I'm a better setup man. But based off they handled that situation, I think Neris has probably got a long leash, probably, at least another month, depending on if he continues, because 4 out of the last 5 appearances, he's let up at least a run. And the Saturday one with at the Dodgers was horrendous, 4 runs. So I think it's a longer leash than we expect there. And then, like you said, they were building, so they don't really have to win now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I was big on him coming into the season. I think the kid has dynamite stuff. It's just a matter of between the years, can he figure it out? All right,
go ahead.
No, take us away.
Yeah, so we're a month into it, folks. So we got some surprises, some disappointments. We're going to kind of go every other here. I got the AL. Bubba's got the NL, obviously. We try to do that more often, more familiar with each league. I'm going to start with we're going to start with surprises. I'm going to start with my first one is the Chicago White Sox. 13-11, they're half game back of the Cleveland Indians. And the main reason for it is they got the best bullpen in baseball in terms of ERA right now, 1.90 ERA. They've done really well in the offseason. We mentioned many times on the trades for the rebuilding. But Chicago's able to watch some good baseball right now. At least, the White Sox fans are able to watch some good baseball right now while rebuilding, and that's a great thing. I mean, obviously David Robinson was going to be fine, but they've got great seasons so far. Canley's been unbelievable. He's got 19 Ks per 9, 1 ERA. His FIP is minus 0.89. He's been incredible. It probably regressed a little bit of 462 BABIP, but he's been great. Swarzak has been incredible as well. Actually, not regressed. The 462 BABIP is crazy how well he's doing. Swarzak's been incredible too. He hasn't let up a run yet. He will probably regress in a little bit. He's 100% left on base rate, 125 BABIP. Putnam's been good. Nate Jones has been great. Dan Jennings has been great. So there really isn't anyone there that's bad. Obviously, they're not going to have a 1.90 ERA the whole time, but it is strong. And you look at the World Series champions over the past few years, they've had strong bullpens. That's how the Royals have built it. We'll get to them a little bit later. Rotation's middle of the pack. They've definitely overachieved other than Quintana. He 5.22 ERA. He's already started, improving with a start last week against Kansas City. He's starting again tonight. Expect him to have a really nice start, and he'll continue. Maybe the trade room has gone in his head a little bit. But Miguel Gonzalez has done pretty well. Holland has done really well. James Shields was doing amazing until he got hurt, but he will 150% regress. And then they've got Pelfrey in there and Dylan Covey. They've both been really bad. So expect that rotation to kind of regress a bit, except for Quintana, who, will get to his normal, 3.5 to 3.80 ERA, and pitch really well for them. And the offense just isn't there either, other than Avisail Garcia has done. We all know he mashes lefties. He's got a 3.68 average, slugging 6.21. He's got a 4.37 WOBA. He's got 5 home runs, 20 RBIs so far. His BABIP 4.43. So again, he'll probably regress a little bit, but those who play daily fantasy, and I assume that everyone that is listening to us, we all know that he mashes lefties. Matt Davidson's been a little bit of a surprise, but he's striking out about 37%, so people will figure him out a little bit. And then the Todd Father and Abreu, they've kind of been Abreu's got no power right now, and really Todd Father doesn't either. He had a bit a flu issue at the beginning of the season. Melky Cabrera really hasn't given them much. And then Tim Anderson, he had the contract extension. He's been just awful. I mean, he's not walking, striking out 25% of the time. He's batting 206. So he really needs to improve to continue to. I'm sure that he's got a long leash, but if he keeps batting like that, they may have to send him down to kind of figure it out a little bit. Obviously, expect them to be, down in the standings, probably near the Royals. The Twins surprised a little bit, but good start, good first month for Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, they've been very, very impressive. We liked what they did this offseason, and they've definitely got it going. My first surprise team is the Colorado Rockies. They're first in the NL West at 16-10, and many people thought they'd be good, but then they had all those injuries right at the end of spring with Desmond and Dahl. Desmond got activated on Sunday. Dahl had some setbacks. He's still a little ways away, but they're getting it done. And some of the surprising factors is you have the likes of Kyle Freeland and Antonio Sensatella in the rotation, 2 youngsters that most didn't even think would make the starting 5, have made the starting 5. Have K percentages of 13 and 14%, walk rates below 10%, which is outstanding. They're stranding 81% of runners on base, which is insane. But the big thing for me is I know a lot of people don't believe in ERA anymore, but when you play in Coors Field, ERA is both below 3, which is impressive. Their FIPS, Freeland's at 3.83 and Sensatella is 4.03. That's pretty darn impressive for me, being spending time in Coors and away from Coors. I know it's small sample sizes and all, but for youngsters, for their first time dancing in that place, that's pretty darn impressive for me. They're the staples of that staff right now, and they're getting it done for them. 5 games started so far, 24 and 22 years old. They're making that happen. You go to the bullpen, Greg Holland, who took a deal after taking time off for Tommy John surgery, leaving Kansas City. He has been outstanding. 12 innings pitched, K rate at over 28%, BABIP at 250, FIP at 208, XFIP at 361 has just been lights out for the bullpen. Couldn't ask for much more. They are 5th in all of baseball in total pitching. It's been a thing of beauty. When you think of Colorado, you don't think of team pitching, and they have been amazing. And it's ironic because when you think of Colorado, you think hitting, and in all of baseball, they're 27th in offense. So it's like a complete reversal. And I'm going off of standings when it comes to Fangraphs page. This might be different than MLB.com or something. I'm going off of their stats page, so don't at me on it later. But it's very interesting to do. And the bright side for them is, like I said, they just got Desmond back, and now they have decisions to make because they signed Desmond to be first base. but Reynolds has been on a tear to start the year. He's only striking out 21% of the time, which is outstanding for Reynolds. He hitting around 300 with a BABIP of 313, which for Reynolds, again, very good. WOBA of 406. He has 8 home runs on the year. Not much more you could ask for from that guy. He's been very, very productive in that lineup. So Desmond's going to rotate in the outfield and at first base. Eventually he'll get Dahl back, and then you have the real decisions to make. Parra's been pretty productive. Arenado's been Arenado. He's been awesome. Cargo, he hasn't been worth a lick. Blackman's been heating up of late. They're going to be good, really good, especially if they can stay healthy now. Their team's going to be good. They still have I'm totally blanking all of a sudden. They have that catcher that's on the DL also. Where's he at? He's down here. Oh, damn. No, blanking on that one. But they got a lot to look forward to. But the big question to me, these young pitchers are going to regress, in my opinion, eventually as it keeps getting warmer in Colorado because the weather's been kind of cool. That ball is going to keep flying a little more. We've seen summer months in Colorado where it looks like football scores on a regular basis. And then we're going to really test the mental fortitude of these boys. But for our first month of the year, when you look at their overall pitching, that's pretty darn impressive. And they got to be happy with that. And they're going to contend this year. I really do think they're going to – the way the Giants have been a massive disappointment, the D-backs are pretty solid. I think they're going to fight with the D-backs for at least a chance at the wild card, if not battle with the Dodgers, because if the Dodgers can't stay healthy, which we're noticing they might not either, we'll see. But Rockies, my number one, or one of my surprises.
Yeah, they built a great bullpen, 3-headed monster in Holland, Ottavino, and McGee, and that's really been the key so far. And like you said, the young guys will regress a little bit. They haven't got anything from Gonzalez. They're going to take their time with David Dahl now that they have Reynolds kind of raking a little bit. But yeah, they've been Bud Black's really pushing the needle there, and they've been up there with everyone. My second surprise, and in our predictions, we both kind of said it. I get it wrong every year. Somehow Buck Showalter does it. The Baltimore Orioles are 16-8, 1 game ahead of the Yankees for first place in the AL East, excuse me. And it's obvious. I mean, it's their bullpen. They've had Britton out for half the month or so, but Bratch has done the job. Darren O'Day, he hasn't been great, but we all know he'll be fine. But Donnie Hart, has done well in only 7 innings. He hasn't a lot of run. And Michael Givens has been excellent. 1.29 ERA. He hasn't walked a ton of guys. So he's been excellent. And that's really the key for them all the time the last few seasons. The rotation, when you talk about the rotation, Wade Miley's been incredible. 11 Ks per 9. He's still walking a shit ton of guys, 5.5 walks per 9. He's got 2.32 ERA, and I don't know if he's going to regress that much. I think he'll probably get by the end of the season, to a 4 ERA, but we're not talking about the Seattle Wade Miley here. I think he's got something cooking, and he's always been an innings eater. So he's averaging about 6 innings per game. They'd like that to be a little bit higher, but with that bullpen, they don't have to force it. They need Ubaldo stinks. We all know that, so he's whatever. But they need Gausman to pitch better. They really do. 7.5 ERA. He's walking 5 guys per 9. They need him to pitch better. And I tweeted about it today. Although Bundy's pitching really well, he's pitched at most 110 innings last year. So we're talking maybe 150 innings if they're pushing it because they think they can win, maybe 175. 150 innings, we're talking beginning of August is what he's going to get that to at this rate. He had 40 innings. I know he pitched yesterday. It's May 1st, but in the month of April, in the first month of the season, he pitched 40 innings. So we're talking beginning of August. Let's see how they push him. He's been pitching well. Obviously, 1.82 ERA. He's not striking a ton of guys out, but he's been pitching well. Defense has been pretty good behind him. That's really something to watch out for. Maybe in fantasy you try to sell high here because if it's not now, maybe it's in a month because maybe he only has 2 months left after that if they really stick to that 150, 175 innings limit. And I think they probably will. the offense really has been great. Trumbull really hasn't given them anything. It's batting .214, 2 homers. They can deal with the average with Trumbull. That's how it always is with him. But he's not hitting for power right now, and he's not walking a ton either. The situation to watch out for is at shortstop with J.J. Hardy. He's batting 185, and he's not walking at all. He only had .214 OBP. So I wonder what happens there at shortstop if he continues to be like this. Chris Davis, again, he's striking out 38% of the time, but he's still walking a little bit, and he's doing really well. Mancini's had some big hits for him, but he's striking out a ton as well. Manny Machado is a beast. He'll get that average up from 225. Adam Jones is being Adam Jones. Troop has been excellent this year. So that offense has really been bad, and they're in first place. So something's got to give there with a couple of the guys in the rotation, and their offense getting better. It may flip-flop, and they may just kind of stay the same. But Buck does it again. I was wrong. We'll see what happens later in the season. I'm not sure that rotation can hold up. But for now, I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong for now, but they'll make us right. They will. Have faith. It's just a matter of time.
That's why
it's just a matter of time. Yep. I'm going to stick in the NL West, and it's bad because most of my predictions are in the NL West tonight, and it's not just a bias. Maybe it is because I watch them a lot, but I'm really impressed. The Arizona Diamondbacks, second in the West, are 16-11, and I think a lot of it's because they were so bad last year. They have looked outstanding this year. Playing in Coors Light helps. They should really enjoy it before the humidor gets put in another month or so. But they've been outstanding, one of the best offenses in baseball, 3rd or 9th overall, as I've seen. But more importantly, they have the 3rd best pitching staff in baseball, which are starters and relievers combined, which is crazy when you think you have Fernando Rodney. So that's pretty darn impressive, according to Fangraphs. You got to look at people like Chris Owings, who has just been playing out of his mind. You got to think back last year, he played really injured. So he was able to, slap singles and steal a little bit, but now his shoulder's healthy and he's hitting with power. So now you're getting the steals and the power. AJ Pollock's back healthy, and he's just an all-star in a machine. Peralta's back healthy. All these pieces of the puzzle will go with Goldie, Lamb, and Tomas is actually hitting the baseball this year. He's hitting righties and lefties. That offense is filthy, absolutely filthy, and scary things in that ballpark, and they can travel. That's the scary thing. It's not like the old days of Colorado when they leave Coors and they couldn't hit the baseball. This team can travel, and that's going to be real interesting to see as the season comes on. I think that'll be possibly one of the separating factors between them and Colorado is their overall offense. If they can keep going and Colorado's can't. The other factor, obviously, is the starting rotation. Zach Greinke was a big question mark for a lot of us. He's managed a 3.19 ERA and a 3.24 FIP and xFIP, which is really, really good considering where we were with Zach Greinke last year. So we have to be very happy with this. He's still giving up over a home run per 9, but he's striking out 26.3% of batters he's facing. So we got to be pretty happy with what we're seeing from Greinke. One of the big things is we're starting to see Patrick Corbin pitch like Patrick Corbin of old. He's snapping off that slider and striking guys out with that slider like it's going out of style. His overall K rate's only about 20% right now, but when he's throwing that slider, it's just filth. I was reading an article today, and like this past Sunday, he was just making guys look foolish with that slider. His xFIP's 4.01 right now. His FIP's 3.42. He's looking healthy finally. We thought he'd look good last year. He still struggled. He's coming back. It's the whole theory. They always say usually it's a year and a half, 2 years after Tommy John. Well, this is about that time for Corbin, and we're starting to see it. Taijuan Walker, he's looking good. Change of scenery. I was worried because that ballpark, he likes to get up the home run, and he's had some struggles from time to time. But overall, he's looked good. He's starting tonight in Washington against that very tough offense. So far, not bad, we should say. And they got Robbie Ray, who's just a strikeout machine. They got to love what they have there with Ray. So they got a lot of good strikeout arms in that rotation, young arms. If you take Greinke out of there, Corbin's 27, and then it's like 24, 25, 26. Nice young rotation to build around there in Arizona. Strikeout arms, like I said, a couple lefties, couple righties. Good things to build around. Problem is, we already talked about it. You have Fernando Rodney in the bullpen. Bright spot, you got Archie Bradley, who's just been amazing, absolutely amazing. 8 games with 16 innings pitched, K rate of 32.2. He's only walking 5.1% of the batters he faces. His BABIP's only 206, which kind of worries you a little bit, and his left on base percentage is 100. So reality sets in eventually, but if you've watched him pitch, his stuff has been filthy. Filthy. So he's been awesome. Talked about J.J. Hoover already. You got guys that have come up and shown up. Jorge De La Rosa, former Rockies, coming out of the pen, 30% K percentage, which has been outstanding. But other than that, they've got guys coming in and just, it's just not good. Nothing consistent. They probably need another 1 or 2 arms out of the pen to shore things up. And then they could be a real big contender here in the West. They could give the Dodgers a run for their money, I think. But as long as they stay healthy, because depth-wise, they don't have much, in my opinion. So they're going to have to stay healthy. But if they stay healthy, Diamondbacks are a serious contender in the West, in my opinion.
Unfortunately, with some of the trades they made, they don't really have a system to make a few trades to help them. So I'm not sure this is the year for them. They gotta have a good draft here coming up in June, but definitely a good start first year. Torey Lovullo. On to my third surprise is the New York Yankees, 15-9, 1 game back from the Orioles. They've really been incredible, sort of all over the board here. Kind of a theme with my surprises is the bullpens are just all excellent. We knew that was going to be with the Yankees, at least with their two-headed monster there, and Chapman and Betances. They've both been great. Speaking of creatures of habit, I mean, Betances was the closer at the end of last year and was awful as a closer. So he's just great as the setup guy, and that's another guy that, could possibly be that high leverage guy, as in the Andrew Miller type, if they actually make the playoffs and in September, if they're battling for the AL East or a wild card. But they've gotten some great work from guys like Adam Warren. Jonathan Holder's been pretty good. Tyler Clippard has been really good. So they've got about 5 guys there that have had really, really good seasons to start. So the bullpen will always be there for them. If they get to Betances in the 8th and then Chapman in the 9th, most games are going to be over. Rotation, middle of the pack, but you got to like what you've seen from Pineda and Luis Severino. That was the big question mark at the beginning of the season, was can Pineda stop allowing these homers? Can he, he would have a 10K game, but he'd allow 6 runs. And that was the big issue with him. And he's sort of shorted up a little bit. I mean, he's still allowing about 20% home run per fly ball. Same goes with Severino, but they've been really well. And if they pitch like this all season, it doesn't look like they're going to regress too much here. The Yankees could have something. And really, with Tanaka struggling to be in the season, he's turned it around in the last few starts. He's been excellent. And Sabathia is going to be that 5th guy who he can be around a 4 ERA, 4.5. I mean, they'll take that from Sabathia. And then Jordan Montgomery's been the other guy. He's been pretty surprising as well. He's almost got a 10 Ks per 9, 4.15 ERA. So he hasn't been bad either. Now we get to the surprising part. Gary Sanchez has been out pretty much the entire month. He's probably coming back this week, so definitely watch out for him. Aaron Judge is the guy. He hit another homer tonight. The Yankees are just crushing Matt Latos all over the place. I got Aaron Hicks. So if I had a nice little fist pump there with Aaron Hicks. He had a dog. That was really good. But the Yankees are crushing Latos tonight. But Aaron Judge has been amazing. I didn't think this guy would be a good major leaguer off the bat. I thought he struck out too much. I didn't think he had enough plate discipline to really be the guy. But including tonight, he's got 11 homers now. Over 20 RBIs. He's only striking out 26% of the time, and he's walking 14%. He's got a 300 average, 725 slugging. I mean, he is mashing, absolutely mashing the ball. and really carrying this squad. But they've gotten a lot of help from guys you didn't think. Starlin Castro having a great first month. Chase Headley is batting .300, which is crazy. Hicks has been good in limited roles here with 58 plate appearances. And then Holiday's been, he's walking a ton, almost 19%. Same goes with Hicks. Torreyes has done a fine job at shortstop with Didi Gregorius out. Now they get him back. They get the Sanchez back. Got to figure out the first base position. I'm going to guess it's probably the worst in the league with Chris Carter and Greg Bird in terms of average, home runs, strikeout rate. They're both over 30% strikeout rate. So they have to figure out that first base position. But just like Buck Martinez, Buck Showalter, Girardi seems to always have them in the mix, even though they're kind of in a rebuild right now. They've got the farm system. We talked about how a couple of their guys really, and Torres is back, Gleyber Torres. He's mashing the ball again, so they got that guy waiting in the wings. But the Yankees been really surprising, and I actually think they're going to be there for the full year, at least for the wild card position.
Yeah, they've been darn impressive. Like you said, the big thing to me is the help they've gotten from guys like Starlin Castro and Chase Headley, things like that. Have been really, really impressive. Really impressive. My last one is, some people might say, like, how's this a surprise? First, if you look at the National League, a lot of the overall records are like around 500 or worse. It was a really weird month of April. Let's just put it that way. And the reason I'm going to pick the Chicago Cubs, who are first in the NL Central at 13-11, as my surprise team in a good way, is the fact that they're still in first place. Is they've had a very tough schedule. They just got done in Fenway, and they've played some other contenders or potential contenders to start the year. And they're doing it with Kyle Schwarber doing basically nothing to start the season. And their pitching staff, according to Fangraphs, is now 20th in baseball. They're only striking out less than 9 per 9 as a team. Just do this all by team. With an ERA of 4.02, a FIP of 4.20, and an xFIP of 3.80 as a team. Not getting it done when it comes to the pitching department. And a lot of that has to do with the likes of Jake Arrieta, 4.66 ERA, 4.28 WHIP, 3.19 xFIP, or 4.28 FIP. Sorry, I keep saying WHIP like a jackass. So eventually his should come around. He's got his K percentage of 27.6, but you see him, he just keeps giving up that long ball all the time, just feeds it to you. Brett Anderson got beat up again last night by the Phillies. John Lackey's looked horrific. Kyle Hendricks' velocity is down. He's throwing like 85 miles an hour at times, getting beat up. Your best pitcher is John Lester, who got hit around his last time. Already gave up a home run in the first inning tonight. Not good. Their pitching staff's got battered and bruised the first month of the season. Bullpen, Wade Davis has been great. Koji Uehara has not been able to pitch on back-to-back games all year. Their only good reliever has been Carl Edwards Jr., only consistent good reliever, I should say. Rondon's been okay. Montgomery's been okay. The rest have been just pure disasters. That pitching staff has been horrible. And when your bats are off and on, it's tough. Bryant's hitting well. Rizzo's hitting well as expected. Addison Russell's playing well. Thank God Jason Hayward decided to hit the baseball. Maybe those adjustments finally worked they kept talking about. But outside of those guys, that's not much else going on. They're hitting their fourth best offense in baseball. You expected them to mash. They're mashing. That's helping them out. But pitching-wise, if they don't fix this, they're going to struggle. The reason why they are surprised, they're 13-11. If they figure out how to pitch, which I think they will, these guys are talented enough to figure it out, they are going to run away with the National League like no one has seen. It's scary. I didn't want to go long-winded on this one just because it's the Cubs. Everyone knows the Cubs, but I just wanted to point out the fact that they're 2 games over 500, and they played such horrible baseball, and they're still 2 games over 500.
Yeah, the pitching staff, I'm sure we'll talk about it down the road as we get closer to the trade deadline. I think we did mention it in our predictions that they're going to need someone in the bullpen and maybe a starter, based off what Brett Anderson's doing and Lackey and Arrieta. But like you said, I'm not really worried about it. They'll be fine. Those are our surprises for the first month of the season. We get to the disappointments. Hopefully, we won't spend too much time on these. I know you'll spend a little bit of time on a couple of teams here based off who you got. But I'll start with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think we both had them as wild cards. They're 9-17, 8 games back. 14th in the AL. Bullpen's awful. Joe Smith and Biagini, I guess I'll go with. I'm terrible with names. I'm always terrible. They've both been really, really good. Osuna's been out the first month. He'll figure it out. He's got a 5.63 ERA, but he will figure it out. Grilly's been terrible. So that bullpen, we mentioned in our previews, they do need somebody. That bullpen's been terrible. And the way they're playing, they may be sellers close to the deadline. I mean, I think I pronounced them dead 2 weeks ago. Quick in the rotation, it's been fine. They've been out without Happ for a couple weeks. Like we mentioned, Sanchez got the blister and the hangnail, but Estrada and Stroman have been excellent. Liriano's been excellent other than that first start. But if you get rid of that first start, he's been tremendous. So they got 3 good starters there. If they can get Sanchez and Happ, maybe they can make a little run, but that bullpen doesn't help them. And then even worse right now is their bats. 27th with a 289 WOBA, 233 average, 298 on-base percentage. No Donaldson. They might as well have had no Bautista, although he will come back. He's not this bad. Trust me, he's not done. Okay. Morales has not worked out with Steve Pearce. I barely have him on my page right here. Devin Travis, I think he's starting like 1 for 40. He's been awful. Tulowitzki's on the DL, his normal DL, and he's getting older. Smoke's been pretty good for them. Russell Martin, he's getting on base, but he's got a 219 average. And Pilar's been good for them as well. He's got 4 homers, 3 stolen bases. I don't think he'll get to a 15-15, but potential there for him. He's been really good, and we obviously know his defense and center. But these bats have been awful, and they're in big trouble if they don't get Donaldson back and Bautista doesn't rake here. And we know Estrada and I believe Liriano are free agents after this season. So let's see how they play in May. We'll revisit it in a month, and you may see some wheeling and dealing soon up in Toronto.
When Matt Latos is a starting pitcher, things are bad. Things are really bad. Speaking of really bad, I'm just going to kick it off. I was going to bury the lead, but the San Francisco Giants are 9-17, and they're last in the NL West, and they're the worst in the National League. We're 1-0 in May, but they're 9-17 in April. So I guess they're 10-17 now. I haven't updated it. So 10-17. Madison Bumgarner, he's out for quite some time. He doesn't know how to ride a dirt bike, let alone he shouldn't have been riding a fucking dirt bike. You got Brandon Crawford, Denard Span, Jared Parker, Aaron Hill, Mac Williamson, and the list goes on the DL. The offense is dreadful. 28th worst offense in all of baseball. They can't hit left-handed pitching. They have the worst offense in all of the National League. They have the 14th worst pitching staff in baseball, 12th worst bullpen in baseball, or 12th best, I should say. It's horrible. The bullpen has just been bad. Melanson's blown 2 saves. He's been lights out the rest of the time. Lights out. But his 2 blown saves have just been hard to watch. One was the very first game of the year, and one was the very last day of April. 2-0. Get up a 2-run homer in the 9th. But the middle relief is some of the worst pitching I've ever seen on the face of the planet. You almost have to go 8 with the starter and hand the ball to Melanson right now. The starting rotation, Cueto, he's been okay. Not great, though. His ERA is like in the 4s, but he's getting us innings and giving us a chance to win because people don't believe in the wins stat, but he has 4 wins on the year, so You can take your other stats. I don't care. We have 4 wins. I'll take it. I will take it right now. Outside of that, Matt Moore has gotten blown up, but those were against Arizona and Colorado. Every other start, he's pitched really, really well. So I'll take that out of the grain of salt, see how he pitches again tonight. Hopefully things get better. I'm not holding my breath, though. And then Samardzija, he's like 6 or 7 innings and 4 or 5 runs. It's not good, as you can hear. The question, do they decide to be sellers? And I'm not sold they're quite there yet. I don't have a problem if that's what they want to do. The only thing is if they do, they need to go all in. Don't just half-ass it. If you're going to sell, you're selling Cueto, you're selling Pence, you're selling the big pieces. You're keeping Posey, you're keeping Bumgarner, Belt and Crawford, I guess, the ones you got the big deals cheap with. You're keeping them, but you're giving it to the big boys. No problem with that. But you got to do it all. It's all or nothing. But that's the big question, because I don't say give up yet. It's just weird because if you sell now, you'll get more return, obviously. But it's like the talent's there. We've seen it before. They were just horrible. For Christ's sake, Posey had 1 homer and Pence had 1 homer in all of April. We know they're better than that. They each hit 1 homer yesterday. They already have as many homers in May as they did in April. If you have a good – say they go 10 games over 500 in May, now we're back to 500 after 2 months of the season. We're right back in it. So there's a lot of baseball to be played, to be completely thrown in the towel. I'm just not very optimistic. The Giants are my first disappointment of the season.
I think everyone saw that coming. The Bumgarner news doesn't help, but I'm sure we will talk about it in some sort of trade segment down the road if they really are gonna sell. Because if they do, no big deal. You get some prospects and you come back next year, you'll still have the same Giants and you'll still be contenders. So it is what it is.
I'm fine with that because our farm system needs prospects. That's why I said they need to decide to go all in or don't. That's all it is.
Yeah, I agree. Another disappointment, but it's an interesting disappointment, is our NL West, or I keep screwing this, AL West division pick, the Seattle Mariners, 11-15, 6 games back. The funny thing about this is they've played 17 games on the road and 9 at home. They're 5-12 on the road, 6-3 at home. I should have checked the schedule for this. I'm sure they're playing a bunch of home games in May, so they aren't out. Their bullpen's terrible. Diaz has been fine. Talked about putting him in high leverage situations. Scott Service has, because they need him to. Nick Vincent and Pezos has been pretty good. Rashimsky's been, fine as a lefty reliever, a lefty specialist. But other than that, it's been really bad. It's basically, one outing from your guy, Chris Heston. Scribner's been bad. Casey Fiend has been bad. And you have to have a good bullpen to compete, but not dead. Starting rotation has been okay. Paxton's been amazing. Gallardo hasn't been too bad, actually. We kind of said he's, as a 5th starter, he'd be fine. I think he had 1 bad start. Miranda's done pretty well in the absence, of Felix and the absence of Smiley. Iwakuma has done fine, but his velocity is way down. We're talking Jared Weaver status here. So I expect him to regress heavily. He's got a 4.15 ERA right now, but his FIP is 6.58. He actually pitched well last game. I believe it was against Oakland, but expect him to regress. To the bats, kind of middle of the pack. Like I said, Haniger is a big loss. He's been really, really good. 338 average, 442 OBP. He's been really good. Nelson Cruz is doing his thing. He's having a great year again. Segura was hurt. Good job getting him back. Cano, been okay. But the first base, another first base issue, they dropped Vogelbach beginning of the season at AAA. They gave Valencia the full-time deal, and he has been awful. 181 average. He's hit 1 home run. Got a 125 ISO, so no power there. Nothing from the catcher's position. They brought up Ben Gamble, see what he does. in the outfield. Taylor Motter's giving them some big hits. I'm not ready to call them dead, obviously. Like I said, you're going to play a lot more games at home coming up. They've been terrible on the road. We'll see how they do without Hernandez. That 4-5. I mean, Gallardo is now like the 2 right now, which is scary, scary stuff. Hopefully Felix isn't out too long, and they get Smiley back in about a month. And then they'll be right back. They'll make that kind of run in the June, July, warm weather. I'm not ready to call them dead, but not a good start for the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, their offense is heating up. They had a good week last week. As team stats go, they definitely went up. But pitching-wise, big hits with Felix out. Smiley they need. Paxton's awesome. But, yeah, Gallardo as your 2. Moving on to a team we've talked about way too much already tonight, but the New York Mets, 10-14, last in the East. Yeah, they're done. I will say it. They're done. Their offense has been great. They're hitting again tonight. Jay Bruce is amazing, but we know Jay Bruce is like an every other month guy. So he's hit the first 2 days of May, which is impressive. Maybe he's going to start something new. He's been awesome. Conforto, he's been great. But unless these guys keep putting up a ton of runs, they're running out of pitchers because Harvey's getting hit again tonight. He's not the guy he was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was now. DeGrom's good, but when's DeGrom going to get hurt now? He's next. Like, it's just a matter of time, right? It's coming. Eventually, when Thor's ready to come back, are they even going to be in it to rush him back, or do they just say, hey, well, no, they're stupid. They'll rush him back, actually. I forgot. They don't know how to handle their pitchers. Never mind. They will rush him back. Because if they're smart and they're out of it, they say rest will bring you back next year 1,000% healthy. But no, they'll rush him back and blow out his arm or something. That's what they'll do. But this team, it's unbelievable how they've mismanaged it. Harvey's not Harvey anymore. DeGrom still looks great. He's got some of the best swinging strike stuff in all baseball. But they're relying solely on their offense, which we know is not this can't be maintained. Eventually, it's going to run out. Cespedes is hurt. They only have a couple guys that really scare you. As a whole, their offense isn't that good. And as they, the biggest thing is just the DO. And I'm not going to get too much deeper into it, but like you said earlier, Nemo, Duda, Cespedes, Flores, Syndergaard, Lugo, Matz, Wright, all in the DL right now. 23rd worst offense in baseball, and they're lucky their pitching is 8th best at the moment. And it's only going to get worse with Thor out now because he was the best pitcher in all of baseball in April. So New York Mets, my second most disappointing team in the National League.
On to my third disappointment and last disappointment for me for the AL. It's not really a disappointment in terms of I thought they were not going to be a great team, but I didn't think they'd be this bad this early as the Kansas City Royals. 8-16. They're in last place in the AL. Terrible. Again, another team, 2-11 on the road, but terrible on the road. Their bullpen knew it was going to suck other than Herrera beginning of the season, and they have not disappointed. Soria has been pretty good other than the walks, but his ground ball rate's good. His ERA is good. So him and Herrera is going to bring something back. Their starting rotation is actually first in terms of ERA. Vargas has been amazing. It's crazy. His changeup's been excellent. I think it's the best in the league. Danny Duffy's doing his thing. Ian Kennedy's been good, but Hamill and Carnes, So that rotation has been good because of Vargas, Duffy, and Kennedy. And then to the worst offense in baseball, it's been really, really bad. Hosmer has been terrible. He's been hitting, it's all ground balls from him. He wants that 10-year deal. He's not doing it right now. So, I mean, they're going to have to trade these guys, and it's going to be soon. It really is going to be soon. I mean, Lorenzo Cain has been no power. Moustakas is the guy, 7 homers. Salvador Perez has been great, 6 homers. Other than that, I mean, Hosmer, Alex Gordon, Brandon Moss, Paulo Orlando, awful. They're all hitting below 226. 3 of them are hitting below 187. So it's really bad in Kansas City. They're going to be rebuilding for some time because I hate their farm system. They really need to draft well over the next year or so. And we're going to see them down in the basement, but at least they got that World Series.
Yep, it'll be a fire sale come the trade deadline. My last disappointing team is the Los Angeles Dodgers, 14-12 and third in the NL West. They should be running away with the division. I already mentioned how the Rockies and Diamondbacks are my surprises, and that's why they're not running away with it for starters. But second, and I won't go too deep statistics-wise, but they are one of the most inconsistent and frustrating teams I have ever witnessed. I've seen a lot of them already this month. And pitching-wise, outside of Kershaw, who's even looked bad the last 2 starts, and a lot of that can be attributed to a calf injury, if not maybe something else. I was waiting to wake up to some other injury after watching last night's performance because he was all kinds of off. He's looked fine outside of that, but Maeda is disgustingly bad. I was never high on him to begin with. He's horrible. Ryu has been really bad. They finally got Urias up, so that's going to help. That'll probably change things come the end of May. But McCarthy, he's okay. Wood can't even go more than like 80 pitches. Rich Hill, who I have been the biggest against guy on the planet, it's been documented every podcast. He proved me right because he can't stop getting blisters. Their pitching staff's a joke. Somehow still 7th or the 2nd best in baseball. I think it's a lot of it's because their bullpen's decent. But this team, for all the money they spend, is embarrassingly disappointing to me. Offensively, if Corey Seager's not hitting the baseball and Bellinger doesn't come up and do what he's done the last week, they're probably not even a 500 baseball team right now. I know that for a fact because Puig hasn't done much. Turner just started hitting lately. Gonzalez is a joke. Grandal's hitting like 230, but he has occasional power. Jock Peterson's a 230 or 240 hitter with occasional power. He's been on the DL now. Offensively, they don't have anything outside of Seager consistently. They can't hit left-handed pitching at all. They're 22nd in baseball against left-handed pitching. They're 7th in baseball against right-handed pitching. But for a team that spends the money they spend, they manage it so horribly. They need to not care about the money anymore. They need to leave Bellinger up. He's better than any outfielder they have, any of them. They need to leave him in the lineup and put him somewhere where he can actually produce, not 8th. Don't worry about, ruining his mental psyche. He's proven he can hit already in a week. I promise you, he can hit. Help him produce in your lineup. Seager needs that help. Gonzalez needs to retire, and that pitching staff needs some stability. I keep saying they're going to get healthy and run away with it. That's what they should do. I think they're going to be in the surprise call. Well, it won't even be a surprise to me because that's what they should do. But as long as they stay around 500, they will continuously be a disappointment to me because on paper, they should be far and away better than anybody in that division. We talked about it in our preview, how we picked them to win the division. And the fact that they are just barely treading above 500 is a disappointment to me. And I know I had the Cubs barely above 500 as a surprise, but theirs was a different way to me than the Dodgers was. Maybe I'm wrong in my assessment of this, but just my 2 cents on the situation.
Yeah, you're right. They need to leave Bellinger up. It's just I don't know why they're going to send him down. It doesn't make any sense to me, especially the way he's hitting. And crazy to see Adrian Gonzalez hitting like this because, I didn't think it would fall like this. It's only a month in. Did not think it would fall like this.
Let's get to some hot and cold players. Let's wrap it up. We'll go through this on a little fast. Give us Mo do the AL as always. I'll do the NL. Give us one of your hot players for the month of April.
Yeah, my first hot player. I talked about Aaron Judge before. I don't need to really go with him, but Miguel Sano had a great month for the Minnesota Twins. 7 home runs, 25 RBIs. Walking almost 19% of the time, still striking out a lot, but as long as he's walking, he's swinging for the fences. 316 average, 443 on base percentage. He's been great for the Twins, and they need him to be great. If only Buxton could get there with him, the Twins would have a kind of a bright future here, real quick ahead of the White Sox and ahead of the Royals.
Sano's my boy. I've been big on Sano all year. coming in. So I love that pick. My first one's I can't not use this guy, Eric Thames. He's been amazing. He's just outstanding. 11 homers, 20 RBIs. Batting second's not helping the RBI front. But what's impressive is he's only striking out 21% of the time for power like that. And he's walking 17.5% of the time, which is outstanding. His ISO is 455. WOBA of 511. These numbers are off the chart. They're obviously going to regress. You can't do this forever. It's obvious. But you got to take it with a grain of salt because the discipline's there. His BABIP's 352, so that'll come down a little bit. But you got to think 341 average. He still can probably hit like 290, 300. He's already got 11 home runs. If he still only hits 5 a month, that's 25 more. That's 36 home runs. Like, he's still in line to have a pretty darn good season. So I like double dong for Hanley. Fuck yeah, sorry. So Eric Thames is my first top player of the month.
I figured see double dongs. I mean, I was heavy on Freddie Freeman and Votto, and they have homers, so it's okay anyway. But my second guy is, I mean, it's just too easy. It's Chris Sale. I mean, he's gotten no run support. Finally, he's getting some run support tonight. He's been absolutely incredible. Everything that I thought he was, and he gets this city. He doesn't care. He's not putting blame on the batters for not giving him run support. He knows he needs to pitch better. He's like, I lost 1-0. I can't give up that run. Can't do it. I lost 2-1. I can't give up those 2 runs. He knows he has to pitch well, especially with the offense and the way they've been. It's kind of amazing, actually, that the Red Sox are even sort of over 500 and still in the race, at least in the beginning of the season, with the way they've hit. They're like the worst offense in the league. At one point, Thames had more home runs than we did as a team. So he's been as advertised, and the trade right now is obviously a home run right now because we have the guy and they have prospects. But I would think unless Moncada's like Mike Trout and Kopech is something else, I would guess we're going to win this trade here. He's been amazing.
Yeah, he has been. Like, I think I tweeted it his last start, and like we both said, we're both kind of watching it while we record. He is the closest thing to baseball porn as you can have watching a game. It's just amazing watching him pitch. It's awesome. My second hot is Ryan Zimmerman. Where the hell did this come from? It's like I said, if people want to give Eric Thames shit for PEDs, test this guy. He's hitting 420 with a 448 BABIP, a WOBA of 553 on the season, striking out 20.8% of the time, only walking 6.3, which concerns me. We got 11 home runs for Ryan Zimmerman and 29 RBIs. That 11 home runs for Zim is nuts, considering he only had 15 all of last year, 16 in 2015. He's already halfway to his career best was 33 in 2009. He's a third of the way there already. He in the offseason, he was working with, I think they said it was Daniel Murphy, about elevating his swing more. And a lot of guys are starting to work on that swing pattern and swing path and all that StatCast stuff. And he really worked on it in the offseason, and it's showing, obviously. He's getting it done, and it's been a revelation. And you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and he keeps doing it. He's hitting the ball hard. He's a big piece of that juggernaut offense in Washington. That's just amazing. Zimmerman is my number 2.
Yeah, he's been incredible for them, and they definitely need him to be to kind of back up that Bryce Harper great year as well. My third one, I could go with Paxton. I could go with Lindor. But I'm going to go with Jason Vargas of the Royals. I mean, they have 8 wins. He's got 4 of them. 1.42 ERA. You know, he's striking out about eight guys per 9. He's not walking anyone. He's not allowing homers. You know, it's not a crazy ground ball rate, but he's pitching really well for them. And imagine if he is what he was the last few years. I mean, they may only have like 3 wins. So he's been great. And there's not really much to say about him. I think he obviously is going to regress. but I'm not sure it's as much as everyone thinks. I think he could sneaky have a good year. Like I said, I think he's got the best changeup in baseball according to Fangraphs. But he's been pretty good, and he's low priced in daily fantasy when he does have a good matchup.
Yeah, he had that one rough start, but he continues to get it done. Got it done again last night. Pretty impressive story if he can keep that up. My last one, I mentioned him. I'm going a little farther down, what people would regularly think. But I've been very impressed by it, and he continues to do it. Like I made the joke earlier, 2 days into May. But Jay Bruce, he's had a hell of a month of April for the fact that he's keeping the Mets afloat and the disaster that has been the Mets. He's hitting 287, but a WOBA of 397, a BABIP of 290. He's only striking out 17% of the time, which is darn impressive. 7 homers to go with 16 RBIs. But it's more than just the stats. It's what he's done. He has literally put the Mets on his back. Conforto kind of jumped in there the last 10 days or so to help him. But if it wasn't for Bruce, these guys might be as bad as the Giants. Like they're 10-14, so they're darn close to the Giants. But they might be actually worse than the Giants if it wasn't for Jay Bruce. So that's why I kind of wanted to put him on there. The stats aren't as eye-popping as Thames and Zimmerman, and I could easily have put like Harper or Kershaw or one of those guys easily. But I wanted to bring up Bruce just for the fact that the stats don't always show the impact he had on his team that month. And Bruce, if it wasn't for what he did, these guys, I already said they're dead. They could just not show up the rest of the year if it wasn't for him, basically.
Yeah, he's been pretty good for them, especially in a contract year. He needs to have that year to get that the big contract, especially where you saw what Trumbo got. He kind of was a Trumbo type in terms of average and home runs. So it's good for him. And that segues into our cold players for the month, segues into Mark Trumbo. He's only hit 2 homers. He's not striking out at a terrible clip, but 214. He's not walking. He's only got 12 RBIs. He's been really bad for that offense that hasn't been as good as it has been the last couple of years. I'm gonna guess that he turns it around. I mean, a 102 ISO is so low for him. So he didn't get paid as much, so he still needs to rake a little bit. But Mark Trumbo is my first cold player for the month in the American League.
Mine is my prediction for the guy to lead the major leagues in home runs this year, Trevor Story. He has been atrocious. But when you look at the numbers, I want to tell myself he's not far off. This might just be, trying to talk myself into something. I'm not quite sure. But the 178 average is scary considering he was hitting 272 last year before he got hurt. But his WOBA's 305. Last year was 380. He's walking 12.5% of the time compared to 8.5 last year. So he's walking more, but he's also striking out almost 40% of the time. His ISO is 244 compared to 296. His BABIP's only 222. So I think there's definitely something positive coming because last year's BABIP was 343. You look through his minor league days, he was in the 340s plus most of the time. He's definitely going to improve, but the month of April was brutal. 6 home runs, 13 RBIs. Bad month. And that just makes that Colorado 16-10 first place record that much more impressive because if you put a healthy, productive Story involved, my goodness, it just gets better. So Trevor Story, my first disappointment, and Manny Machado. There you go.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? But at least he has 6 homers, Trevor Story, so that's something to look out, 244 ISO. So, it could buy low on him a little bit depending on your need at shortstop. My second guy, he hit a home run last night, actually. It was Mike Napoli. He's got 4 homers this year, but he's batting 161 with a 235 OBP. He's striking out 30% of the time. You got to think if it gets warmer down in Texas, he'll be fine. I don't think he's this bad, especially where he has a 190 BABIP. So he's a little bit unlucky here. Still think he gets to about around 25 homers. So that's a nice little buy low candidate as well. But he was terrible in the month of April. But great clubhouse guy, probably not going anywhere, especially where Profar was awful and got sent down. So they don't really have a ton of depth there, but could lose at bats to obviously Joey Gallo when Beltre returns.
Yeah, definitely true there. Mine would be my number 2 is Kyle Schwarber. For some reason, they still have him leading off. I can't wrap my head around it. When I guess his on base is 322, which is not bad for a leadoff hitter, I guess. But he's only hitting a $196, a WOBA of 293. He's supposed to be your power hitter. His ISO is only a $134. You'd expect more out of a guy like Schwarber. BABIP's 271, so you'd hope that would get better. But he's striking out 30% of the time. He's only walking 14% of the time. 3 home runs to go with 9 RBIs. He's got 115 plate appearances, so he's had plenty of shots up there. He's just not producing right now. He's in a funk. He's talented, so you think it's going to turn around. But I don't know. I'm not saying, I just think you need to get him on the leadoff spot. Like, they'll put Hayward up there or something. Put Addison Russell, who's hitting cleanup, for Christ's sake. I've never understood that one. Put Ben Zobrist leading off. Lots of options besides Schwarber, in my opinion, but Madden's a genius, so I don't know why I'm questioning Madden. But Schwarber's in a funk, a big funk, and that's why I think it's impressive the Cubs are 13-11, but he needs to get out of it quick.
Yeah, not a good year so far for Kyle Schwarber. And again, we have to mention too, I mean, he didn't have a full year last year, obviously, with the ACL, so kind of getting back into form. He did it real early, and then he came back for the World Series and just DH'd in Cleveland. So he's got to get his bearings back a little bit, and I'm sure as we get into the summer, he'll be fine. But yeah, get him out of the line, get him out of the number 1 spot there, and you've got plenty of guys to put up there for Joe Madden. But he's a player's manager; he's letting his guy get out of it, so that's one thing there. My last cold guy for the month of April is Kevin Gausman. Talked about him earlier. 6 starts, 1 and 2. Only striking out 6 guys per 9, walking 5 players per 9, 7.5 ERA, 6.07 FIP, 5.63 xFIP. Not to bore you with all the stats. We love him. He's gotta pitch better for the Orioles to compete all season. They've done great in the first month, like I mentioned before. Buck gets the best out of his guys, but if Gausman can't be the ace that we thought he was going to be in the season, they are going to regress quickly. They will not win the AL East without him. They just won't. It won't happen. They need him to be that one. With Bundy probably in the innings limit, need Gausman to be that one. So we'll have to see what happens. I assume he'll obviously pitch better than this. How much better? Probably not number 1 stuff, but he's got to throw some starts together here in the month of May to keep them in first place in the AL East.
Yeah, I was really big on Gausman coming into the year. I'm quite surprised with the struggles of him. My last one's going to be Kenta Maeda, who I said many times he was good the first time through the league. They got to see him. A lot of teams the second time through last year hit him a bit, and this year he's not fooling anybody. He's giving up 2.42 home runs per 9 right now. BABIP's only 306. That's around normal to me. It's not that high. It's a little high, but not that high. So they're just hitting him. It's not that fluky to me. And an ERA of 6.58, but his xFIP's 3.85, FIP's 5.11. Take that however you decide. There's possible help there. K per 9 of 9.35. But you just look at his stuff when he's pitching out there. It's not good. It's flat. He's not locating. There's not a lot of zip on it. It's not good for Maeda. And if he's not pitching well, like I said in my disappointment factor, you got Kershaw, and then hopefully Urias can be the guy they want him to be. But that's just hoping because he's going to be on an innings limit still. And then you're preying on McCarthy and Wood and what else? So Maeda needs to figure it out. They brought him over for a reason, and he's looked bad. So Kenta Maeda, my third cold.
You were all over him preseason. You were all over him.
Yep, hated him. Well, that'll wrap us up. Any last words, Mo?
All I can tell you is it's 9 o'clock Eastern time, and we're almost 7.5 innings through. I love Chris Sale. Thank God he's here. It's just so fast, and he pitches well. A couple homers today, but man, he just pitched. You don't have to watch. And again, I don't mind watching 3-4 hour games, but he pitches fast, and it's like a 2.5 hour, 2:45 game. It is beautiful.
And what's great is he's got 2 outs in the 7th. He's only at 91 pitches. Like literally, there's no reason to even bring Kimbrel in like they did the other day. Let him pitch all 9 unless he gets messy.
Farrell screwed up. You wait.
I can't wait to watch Twitter explode tonight. With that being said, Mo, it was a pleasure as always. Appreciate it.
All right, man.
Everybody, this was Around the Bases, episode 10. Bunch of news, kind of April recap. But we'll catch you guys next time. See you later.
Peace.